Number one thing to do in this city is to get lost.
And lost in love is what describes how we feel about Porto. We've been here more than 10 times, and yet we keep coming back. Describe Porto in 3 words.
It's beautiful, magical, and majestic.
Porto is a vintage theme park for adults with so much to see and do. Whether you're visiting Porto for the first time or coming back for the 10th, this video will equip you with everything you need to know.
Porto is a very hilly city, and that means you're gonna walk up and down all the time. Therefore, bring some comfy shoes. Porto has 4 seasons. That means that it's gonna get quite warm in the summer and pretty cold in the winter.
Porto is a city of self-indulgence, so prepare to lose your self-control.
Porto is not a sunshine city. This is the typical weather to find here in Porto.
Although most places accept credit card, cash is king, and also you have to support all the street artists here.
Finally, guys, don't postpone your lunch because most restaurants close between 3 and 7:30. That means you can't get any food unless you end up in one of those tourist-trappy restaurants. Whether you're on a budget or want 5-star luxury, staying in the very center should be a priority. Porto is a pretty compact city, so having everything right at your doorstep is the way to go.
We're staying at the PortoBay Flores Hotel, which is a 5-star, incredible place to start out your Porto exploration. We're staying 3 nights in the palace room and 4 nights on the superior top floor. What a place to call home. This palace goes back more than 500 years and is one of many tributes to the history of Porto. It's an architectural beauty that makes you wonder how they even built this so many years ago. There is one problem with the breakfast buffet. These are simply too delicious.
And remember, guys, if you use our code STAYCLASSY, you get 12% off all PortoBay hotels.
Whether you're staying at world-class hotels like Les Suites on Madeira, Liberdade in Lisbon, or this top superior suite on Flores here in Porto, our code works.
Go to portobay.com and book your stay now. The hotel is located at Rua das Flores, which is a very busy and vibrant pedestrian road. We like to call this street the living room of Porto, where the whole family is gathered. There are always lots of talented musicians and artists. The atmosphere is bustling with cafes, bars and shops. Especially ice cream is a big deal here. This place is called Santini's and it's one of the best places to get your ice cream in all of Portugal.
But let's get lost in this city. After all, that is the number one thing to do in Porto. We will never stop being fascinated by the maze of narrow streets. There is always a new alley to explore, a viewpoint. This is why we love Porto so much.
People always ask us what to do in Porto, wanting specific suggestions. But this is really all you need. But since this is a travel guide, we should probably talk about actual things to do. Go watch a Porto match. I know you might think that's just a football match, but it's actually essential to understand the Portuguese culture because here, football is a religion. Take a cooking class. This is a great way to understand the Portuguese cuisine as well as meeting a lot of new people on your travels.
When you plan your trip to Porto, see if you can come in June because they have the Sao Sao festival here, which is street fest, and it's just amazing. Not that we endorse McDonald's food, but they have the most beautiful McDonald's here in Porto, and it's worth just going there to have a Sunday ice cream. I think this is a good representation of just how beautiful Porto is, even though McDonald's here is worth visiting. It's important to remember that Porto has become one of the most popular cities in Europe, and that means you will have crowds here. So when you, for example, see a stunning photo of the Harry Potter library, don't expect to have it all to yourself while J.K. Rowling is in the corner writing her next book. Everyone wants to go, and the queue is usually long. Have some patience.
We usually avoid lines as we'd rather spend our time at a cozy restaurant no one knows about or exploring new areas. One place you should go to, even with a line, is the magnificent gold-decorated São Francisco Church.
You should also watch the sunset at Jardim do Morro.
How about Fado at Ideal Club de Fado?
Consider learning about the Portuguese discoveries at this museum. And afterwards you can hang out at this vintage furniture shop right next door.
Swing by the cozy Jardim do Cordodia and have a drink at one of the restaurants. You cannot go to Porto without having port wine. You can go for tastings, you can go just enjoy it.
Like this. And if you want a real port wine tasting, go to Coburn's.
There are a lot of iconic sites here in Porto, but this is our favorite. This is Pont Louis, which is the bridge of Louis I, and this bridge was actually designed by the same guy who designed the Eiffel Tower. This big fella behind me is the Cathedral of Sé, and this is the most important religious building in all of Porto. And in addition of being pretty important, it's also located on top of the city. So once you're here, you get an amazing view to the whole city. And from the cathedral, you can yet again enter the maze of narrow streets. Yes, Porto is a lot of hilly walking, but that's a good thing since you will also be eating a lot.
You have breakfast tables, and then you have breakfast tables.
And this is a
Breakfast table.
This is the. I feel like I am Cinderella or something.
If you only need one reason to stay at this hotel, it's to have a breakfast table like this with this view. Jeg tror det er vaffeltid. In addition to the hills, you should probably also hit the gym. I deserve food. I think the best part about Porto is the food scene. Basically any kitchen, you'll find it here. And let's take a deeper look at that.
Most tourists, they just stay inside the center of Porto, but if you go out, you can be spoiled with a really local atmosphere and even Vietnamese food if you like. Here we are having a chill Japanese dinner, but there are also fine dining Japanese dinners here. If you like Italian food, you cannot miss out on a lunch here in Il Basilico. It's located on PortoBay Teatro Hotel, and you sit here with a nice view to the bustling city.
And this also happens to be where you get the best tartar in town. What I find to be a theme here in terms of food in Porto is that they love to experiment with creative approaches to anything and everything. For example, the pizza here, it has a beetroot crust.
Of course, Portuguese food must be a priority when you visit Porto. Let's start at Bistro Flores with a few cocktails. One of the reasons why we love this place is that it has a big variety of very different food from around the world, and the Portuguese food that you get here even has a creative take on it.
So we might have delicious salmon and juicy lamb, but the francesinha always takes the prize here because we are in Porto. The francesinha is a cheesy paradise invented in Porto. Try the one at Yucu Tavern.
Eat a Santos Pernil at Casa Guedes.
Try the famous and juicy Gazela hot dog.
Have seafood in the Matosinhos neighborhood.
And don't miss our favorite Porto restaurant, O Paparico. It's typical Portuguese food in an artistic package.
And remember guys, never go down on desserts here in Porto because it's so hilly, you're gonna exercise all day anyhow.
So Douro is one of our favorite regions in Portugal. And you can of course take the boat, but that's usually expensive and time consuming. So consider taking the train here because it goes all the way to Régua along the river. It's so beautiful and it's only 2 hours each way, so you can make it into a short day trip. This
is Rua de Santa Catarina, and this is a long pedestrian road filled with all the stores you might want to get when you are here in Porto. It's the kind of stores that you'll find all over the world, but if you want to go on a shopping spree, this is the place to go.
A lot of the clothes especially is actually made here in Portugal, so you find great deals. For example, this 100% organic hoodie, 44 euros.
Of course you have the fancy stores, but we prefer to find the small quirky shops tucked away. You also find flea markets around the city. However, first priority should be to shop Portuguese delicacies.
In Porto, there are so many small, quaint shops with delicacies, such as this one, bread with meat inside. It's a revelation from a tasty and practical perspective.
I feel like we just died and came to heaven here. This is incredible.
This is some of the best chocolate I've ever had.
Yeah.
To lower your pulse in between the Porto excursions, don't forget to unwind at the hotel's bar along with massage.
Welcome to Base Porto, guys. This is the place to hang out during sunset.
And this is actually where we fell in love with Porto.
Indeed.
2017. In terms of nightlife, Porto is the place to be. Rua de Candido dos Reis is always bustling with bars, where especially this place knows how to throw together a cocktail. It's Friday night, Amelia.
And I already had a cocktail.
Of course you don't have these warm evenings in Porto all year round, but when you have them here in the summer, embrace them. And it's a very romantic setup we got right here, Amelia. I must say, I'm having Alheira.
The locals claim that you get the best coffee in here.
It's a good latte.
That's a really good latte.
We have walked from the very center of Porto, 1 hour and 20 minutes.
And we have made it to Fuss.
But what is the fuss about this place?
Foz is an oceanside neighborhood with lots of things to do. It's a beautiful 90-minute river walk from the center, but if that's too far, take the tram.
Foz is all about beach life, restaurants and historical architecture. It's a wonderful contrast to the Porto city life, so don't miss out. Here's another example of one of these epic side street restaurants in Porto. Once you pick the right ones, it's just such a good experience, but you have to pick the right one. This one is called Porta Quattro. Right around the corner you have Parque das Virtudes, where you find happy nightlife vibes with spectacular river views.
Let's go on a little boat trip, guys. If you could only pick one way to see Porto, it should be from the water. This is where you truly get to appreciate the beauty of this city. One of the most romantic things to do here in Porto is to rent a boat and go up and down the river.
This is a bucket list experience in my opinion. You don't have to rent a yacht. You can also take one of these. It's definitely a cheaper option and you get to meet new people. During summer the sun usually comes out in the afternoon, so we went on a tasty sunset mission.
We are sitting at Praia dos Salgueiros at a place called Brasão, and this gives you an idea of the beach life and the coastal atmosphere that you can also get in Porto.
And of course we're having a francesinha, because when you come to Porto you should have francesinhas several times. You need to test them. And this one here is amazing.
Our 7 days in Porto has come to an end, and I gotta say we love this place. And this might be your first time visiting Porto, but it will probably not be the last.
I think it's a theme park for adults. That's the only way to put it. Cheers guys, and enjoy your trip to Porto.
Oh, yum. I feel like I am dreaming. Don't pinch me actually.